I've got more than 10,000 photos snapped with the X100VI in the past year, and it's only now that I'm realizing the power of one setting that honestly changes how I think about the camera. And no exaggeration, it can truly make or break some of your favorite photos. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chris Hagen, a video producer and photographer in Portland, Oregon, and we're talking about the ever-confusing dynamic range setting that gets glossed over a lot more than it should, especially when it comes to creating Fujifilm recipes. Like, I've seen several really good photographers that I subscribe to or follow on social media share recipes and really go into detail about why they chose those settings, everything from white balance to the tint to the tone curve, all that stuff. But then when it comes to dynamic range, they give it the answer of, I'm not totally sure what it does, but I set it to blank. And you know what? I'm kind of guilty of this too, though I did offer my reasoning for why I adjust the dynamic range in my recipes. The explanation mainly catered to those who opt to edit their raw photos. So while I do stand by shooting with your dynamic range set to 400% if you're going to edit your raw photos, if your workflow does not include editing and you prefer to use the JPEG straight out of camera, well, you're gonna wanna stick around as I explain not only how this setting works, but how it changed my thoughts about the camera's ability to shoot indoors and in low light scenes as well. We're also gonna dive into the Fuji X Raw Studio to show you how this setting works in real time, because I want you to understand it as I do, and we can all learn this a little bit better together. So first off, what does dynamic range do? The best way to think of it is it brings down your highlights to preserve detail, and it does it based on your ISO. Set to 100%, things remain normal. With dynamic range set to 200%, the camera will bring your highlights down by one stop. And set to 400%, the camera will bring your highlights down by 2 stops. This is also why your ISO needs to be set to a certain level in order to change the dynamic range setting. For example, on my X100VI, with the camera's ISO set at its base of 125, I can only set my dynamic range to 100%. Now here's where things get more interesting and maybe more confusing, but I promise it will make sense. And again, I've got the Raw Studio here, which allows you to change the image processing settings in real time to help provide some visual examples. To set the dynamic range to 200%, I need to raise my ISO to 250. That brings up the exposure of everything, shadows, midtones, and highlights, and then brings the highlights back down by one stop. This means that your shadows are set how they normally look at ISO 250, but your highlights reduced by one stop appear as though they're set to ISO 125. The camera is bringing everything up and then preserving the highlight detail to keep it from clipping at the higher ISO. To set the dynamic range to 400%, I have to raise my ISO to 500. Again, this brings every part of the image up to ISO 500 and then lowers the highlights by 2 stops this time, really making sure you preserve as much of those highlights as possible, despite the fact that your ISO is higher. This shot of the snowman in the bright sun gives us a pretty good example of what I just explained. My ISO is 500, so I can use any dynamic range setting I want, 100, 200, or 400%. At 100%, the image is exposed pretty well, but it looks like the highlights on the snowman are clipping or getting pretty close to clipping. I want some of those highlights back, so I'm going to raise the dynamic range to 200%, which will reduce the highlights by one stop. Watch the snowman. It brings down those highlights, and it looks like the whites a little bit as well, and there's a little more detail that appears. I'll show you one more time. Here's 100%, and back to 200%. But notice the only thing changing is the snowman. Only the highlights are affected. Now let's go to 400%. It's not huge, but it's another step down for the highlights. So if you're planning on editing, no sweat. With the dynamic range set to 400%, you've got all the details you need to work with. Want more contrast and pop in those highlights? Bring those highlights back up in post. Or if you wanted more detail in the shadows but didn't want to lose the highlights, great. Bringing them back down 2 stops with a dynamic range set to 400 means they won't get clipped at all. But if you're not editing, this is where you could run into some issues. And this is where knowing how to use the dynamic range setting is critical to getting the straight out of camera JPEG that you actually want. And it's something I wish I learned a lot sooner, because we're going to take a look at some photos that I think could have been a whole lot better, or at least more to my liking with a little more pop, had I had a better understanding the first time around. What makes Fujifilm Recipe so effective is all of the settings can be tweaked so much that the JPEG straight out of camera can look like it's been edited in Lightroom or another photo editing app. And a lot of this is achieved with the tone curve, which adjusts highlights and shadows, and the dynamic range setting. For example, a lot of the film-like recipes call for the raised shadows and reduced highlights that give you all the dynamic range of real film, like a Portra 400 or Portra 800. So to do this in camera, shadows are set in the negatives, which raises them. Highlights are brought down to as low as -2, and then on top of that, the dynamic range is set to 400. This is as close as it gets to moving the highlight and shadow sliders in Lightroom to opposite ends, giving you all of that detail in between. So awesome, right? If you're someone that doesn't like a lot of shadows and contrast, it's all done for you in camera. That makes recipes like Portra 400 and Portra 800 great outdoors. Our snowman here is basically the Kodak Gold 200 recipe from Fuji X Weekly. I just reduced the grain setting. But as you can see, the dynamic range is set at 400% and our highlights are at -1.5. This works really well in bright sunlight. However, without any natural contrast, aka sunlight, you're gonna get a pretty flat JPEG if your dynamic range is set to 400%. So using that same Kodak Gold 200 recipe, I take this picture of my lovely wife as we walked in the snow. And look how dull it is. Like, I know it's overcast, but the recipe, specifically the dynamic range, isn't doing me any favors in terms of just getting a little more pop and contrast out of the photo. So we're gonna make some changes right now in the Fuji X Raw Studio to show you how drastic the differences can be if you know the right settings to tweak. We'll start with the dynamic range and reduce it from 400 to 100% to get some of the highlights back. Boom, already a little more contrast. Now let's raise the highlights to add a little more, from -1.5 to +2. I was also a little underexposed here. Maybe that's part of the culprit to why this image is a little more dull than I would have wanted. So I'm gonna raise the exposure value by 1/3 of a stop, and I'm gonna add a little more depth to the shadows, darken those a little bit. And just like that, our new image has quite a bit more life to it. If I'd known the power of dynamic range sooner, I could have gotten this straight out of camera the first time. And all these changes I'm making here in the Fuji X Raw Studio are the same ones that you can make in your camera settings. And you can save these settings to a custom profile if you wish as well. So that's one example of how dynamic range affects photos taken in overcast weather, in case you're wondering why some of your Fujifilm recipes are producing less than stellar results. But it's when you go indoors or start using the recipe in a low light situation where you could also run into trouble. And it might leave you disappointed in the camera's performance, though it's not your camera's fault. It's simply a lack of understanding the settings, and we've all been there. The best example I have is with a few photos using the Portra 800 recipe at a coffee shop in Portland. I know, shocker. It worked really well for a few shots and then left me frustrated with a few more. Taking a picture of my daughter, perfect. Loved how it produced a pretty even tone, there aren't any overly harsh shadows, and a mist filter on the lens did a little bit of softening as well. Then there's this picture of my sister. Again, the recipe did its thing. My ISO is pretty high to expose for her correctly while being backlit, but with the highlights set to -2 and dynamic range at 400%, bringing those highlights down even more, the background outside the coffee shop doesn't clip. But then we start to run into a few issues. I want to take a picture of my coffee because I can't be more cliche. The problem is it's super flat because my recipe is just stomping down on the highlights. And no matter how much I raise my exposure, trying to get more out of those highlights, the image remains just as flat because as my overall exposure goes up, so do the shadows and highlights basically together because, again, the recipe, which calls for the dynamic range being set to 400%, is really reducing the highlights. It doesn't even look natural, especially when you see the white of the milk, because it doesn't really look as bright or as white as it should. Now, it's not as bad as the shot of the push-pull coffee sign, which was actually named in the top 50 of the best coffee shops in the world, by the way, but you can still see in the white of the logo that the brightness and pop is being held back a little. If I were to edit these raw photos, no worries, I could just boost the highlights and problem solved. But using these shots straight out of camera, while not the end of the world, as we make a few changes to dynamic range and the tone curve in the Raw Studio, we can see that it could have been better the first time straight out of camera. What we've discussed so far applies to low light photography as well. Shooting indoors with a recipe that calls for the highlights to be brought down so much is setting yourself up for flatter images and shooting at a higher ISO than you probably need to. More times than not, you're exposing your image for the subject to stand out in the midtones or highlights. So if you're bringing the highlights so far down, now you have to raise the ISO even more to expose correctly. And after finally stopping and thinking and learning more about all of these settings, instead of just plugging these recipes in without a second thought, it makes more sense. There were more than a few times I was like, wow, I didn't think it was that dark in here, but here we are and I'm shooting with my ISO at 5000. Or, man, this camera's really not cutting it indoors, when in fact, it does just fine as long as you let it. So what's the solution or takeaway from all this? Use that dynamic range setting appropriately if you're shooting JPEG only. And for me, lately, that's just been putting the dynamic range setting in auto mode. Now, transparently, I don't know how the camera determines when to shoot with a dynamic range set to 100, 200, or 400. Maybe it's just measuring the entire scene, I don't know. But more times than not, it sets it to 200%, and that's worked out pretty well. Sometimes I just take my favorite recipes like a Kodak Gold 200 or Portra 800 and just change the dynamic range from 400 to auto, and it makes a pretty big difference. Either way, at least we now know why our JPEG images come out the way they do, or why some recipes look brighter or perform a whole lot better in low light than others, despite the camera having the same ISO, shutter speed, and aperture settings. It's all about the dynamic range setting and the tone curve when it comes to contrast and pop in your image. Drop a like if you found this video helpful, share it with a friend who could use a little direction with their Fujifilm settings, and let me know what you think in the comments. Did this explanation make sense? Did I leave anything out? I do always love to hear from everyone. As always, thank you for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you next time.